Welcome to Chapter 2, and now I will tell you about Exercise 1. Exercise 1 is to write code to create Figure 2.2. So let's have a look at Figure 2.2. Figure 2.2 is illustrating the geometric interpretation of vector addition and vector subtraction. So here we have two vectors, vector v and vector w. And the way you can imagine adding these two vectors geometrically is by starting vector v at anywhere you like, and then vector w, you basically position that vector such that the tail of the vector, so where the vector starts, is the head of vector v. And then you draw the line, or the vector that goes from the tail of vector v to the head of vector w. So this light gray line here, this is the addition of v plus w. Okay, and then here we have vector subtraction. So now we have both vectors, v and w, starting at the origin. And then we draw a line that goes from vector w to the head of vector w to the head of vector v. And this is the difference. This is one way to depict geometrically the difference of these two vectors. Okay, so now basically I'm going to switch to Python and show you the code that creates this figure. You can see the definition of these vectors here. So this one is 1, 2. And then here, well, we cannot call vector w 5, 2 because it's translated here. So it's actually spanning 4 units on the x-axis, and on the y-axis, it spans, what is this, -6. So I start this code by defining v and w as numpy arrays, and I've already previously in the code imported numpy and also matplotlib. Okay, so this part's pretty straightforward. Arithmetically, we just create these two vectors and then add them together. And then here for plotting, there's a few different ways you could set up the visualization. You could use annotation, so the annotate function. I chose to use plot.arrow. And the way that you use this function is by defining the initial xy coordinates and then the distance on x and the distance on y. So, and then, there's a bunch of other optional inputs here that are just related to the prettification of the graph, not really related to the linear algebra concepts per se. Okay, and then, here, also some other, just adding some features to the graph. So that's how we get this graph here. And then, so this was panel A, and then panel B is the difference, so v minus w. Of course, these are variables that I already defined in a previous cell, so we can just ignore this little warning message here. Again, I'm using plt.arrow to show all of these arrows. So here, both of these arrows are being drawn at the origin. So v and w are being drawn at the origin. And now the subtraction, I start it at w, so the x coordinates for vector w and the y coordinate for vector w. And then I'm saying, how far does this arrow go? Well, it goes the difference vector in the x direction and the difference vector in the y direction. And that is how we get panel B of that figure.